Hey everyone, and welcome back. We're diving into some pretty heavy stuff today.
Yeah.
Post-election mental health trends, but specifically focusing on BIPOC LGBTQ plus youth. There's been a concerning increase in crisis contacts from this group.
Right.
And the Trevor Project has some insights from their press releases and research reports. So we're going to really dig into those and try to unpack what's going on here. You know, why this particular group?
Yeah.
What challenges are they facing?
It's a really important question. And you know what's so striking is that this isn't just a general increase in calls.
Right.
It's a very specific demographic.
Yeah, it really jumped out at me from the Trevor Project's press release. A full third of that post-election increase in crisis contacts came from BIPOC LGBTQ plus young people. Hard not to see that as a huge red flag.
It is a huge red flag. And to understand why this might be, we have to kind of zoom out a little bit and think about the bigger picture. You know, think back to the election. Exit polls showed that 85% of Black people voted for Vice President Harris.
Wow.
And that number climbs to 91% for Black women.
Wow.
So you can see that for many in the Black community, this election carried so much weight.
Right.
You know?
Absolutely.
And hope for change. So
yeah,
it's not surprising that for some, the outcome could be directly linked to this heightened stress.
Makes sense.
And anxiety, particularly for those who identify as both BIPOC and LGBTQ+.
Yeah, it's about more than just politics.
Exactly.
It's about feeling seen and represented, and then potentially feeling that representation threatened.
Right.
But what does this heightened stress actually look like? What kinds of mental health challenges are we seeing specifically in this group?
Well, the Trevor Project's research reveals a pretty stark reality. They found that Black LGBTQ plus youth are reporting a much higher rate of suicide attempts compared to their white LGBTQ plus peers, 14% versus 10% in the past year alone.
That's a heartbreaking disparity. It really highlights how interwoven these identities are, you know, being Black, being LGBTQ plus, and facing these unique challenges at the intersection of both. I imagine it's not just suicide attempts. Are there other signs of distress being reported?
Absolutely. The research also points to a really high occurrence of physical threats and harm aimed at Black LGBTQ plus youth. 11% reported experiencing this just in the past year. And then you have the constant issue of discrimination. The study found that 36% of Black LGBTQ plus youth reported feeling discriminated against within the last year.
This is really tough to hear. What factors might contribute to these higher rates of mental health challenges for BIPOC LGBTQ plus youth? Is there something more to this story?
Yeah, there's always more, isn't there? The research report, Mental Health of Black LGBTQ Youth, goes even deeper and reveals even more alarming statistics. 44% of Black LGBTQ plus youth seriously considered suicide in the past 12 months. And for Black, transgender, and non-binary youth, that number jumps to a devastating 59%.
Those numbers are just heavy. It's clear that this community is facing a serious mental health crisis.
Yeah.
And it feels like we're only scratching the surface here.
Yeah, we are. And what's even more concerning is the prevalence of other mental health challenges, like anxiety, depression, and self-harm within this population. The report shows that 55% of Black LGBTQ plus youth experience symptoms of generalized anxiety disorder, 63% reported symptoms of major depressive disorder, and a truly heartbreaking 44% reported self-harm, all within the past 2 weeks. And again, those numbers are even higher for Black, transgender, and non-binary youth, with self-harm rising to 61%.
It's hard to even process those figures. It's clear that the need for support and resources is urgent.
It is, and sadly, that need often goes unmet. One of the most crucial findings from the report highlights the limited access to mental health support. For Black LGBTQ plus youth, almost half, 49% to be exact, expressed a desire for counseling but couldn't get it in the past year.
That's nearly half of this already vulnerable population being denied the help they so desperately need. It's incredibly disheartening.
It is disheartening. It is disheartening. And it really underscores why the Trevor Project's work is so vital. They're not just reacting to crises, they're actively working to prevent them. You know, offering these critical crisis services, advocating for policies that support LGBTQ plus youth, and conducting this research to better understand the unique challenges this community faces.
Yeah, their research is definitely shedding light on some truly heartbreaking realities.
Yeah.
Makes me wonder, where do we even begin to address such a complex issue? What concrete steps can we take to make a real difference? It feels almost overwhelming.
It can feel overwhelming, but I think even small actions can have a ripple effect.
Okay.
Awareness is a great first step. We need to amplify these stories, truly understand the unique experiences of BIPOC LGBTQ plus youth, and recognize the intersectional challenges they face. It's not enough to simply acknowledge the LGBTQ plus community. We have to consider those added layers of difficulty that come with being a person of color within that community.
That's such a crucial point. It's about recognizing the compounded impact of multiple forms of marginalization. So how do we move beyond just awareness and into meaningful action? How can we be better allies?
The Trevor Project actually offers some really helpful resources that get at exactly that. For example, they have this guide, How to Signal You Are an Ally in Hostile Environments, and Finding Support and Building Community After the 2024 Elections. These guides give really practical advice on how to be a supportive presence for LGBTQ plus youth, especially in the face of challenging times like what we're seeing now.
I'm so glad they're providing those concrete tools, because it's easy to feel paralyzed by the enormity of the issue. And think, what can I actually do? But these tangible steps make it feel so much more manageable. The Trevor Project also published a letter from their CEO to LGBTQ plus youth. What kind of message does that convey?
It's a message of hope and solidarity. First and foremost, CEO Amit Paley directly addresses LGBTQ plus young people, acknowledging their pain and assuring them that they are not alone. It's a powerful reminder that there are people who care, people who understand, people who are fighting alongside them. The letter also emphasizes the importance of seeking support, whether that's through the Trevor Project's crisis services, or trusted friends and family, or mental health professionals.
It sounds like a vital lifeline for those who might be feeling lost and alone right now, especially after a divisive election. Having that affirmation of support must be so incredibly meaningful. And speaking of support, can you remind us how people can reach out to the Trevor Project directly?
Absolutely. The Trevor Project has multiple lifelines available, a 247 phone line, text messaging support, and even an online chat option. They also have a really helpful self-care flowchart and a visual breathing exercise for managing stress and anxiety.
It's incredible that they offer so many different avenues for getting help. It's important to recognize that not everyone feels comfortable talking on the phone, so having options like text and chat can be so crucial. And the self-care tools are great too. Sometimes just taking a moment to breathe and center yourself can make a world of difference.
Absolutely.
What strikes me is that the Trevor Project isn't just reacting to crises. They're proactively working to prevent them through their research and advocacy.
You're absolutely right. Their research is a critical part of that prevention work. By understanding the unique challenges faced by BIPOC LGBTQ plus youth, they can develop more effective prevention strategies and advocate for policies that create a safer and more supportive environment for all LGBTQ plus young people.
That proactive approach is so important. We often talk about mental health in reactive terms after a crisis has already occurred, but focusing on prevention is crucial. If we want to create lasting change, if we can create a world where LGBTQ plus youth feel safe, supported, and celebrated for who they are, then hopefully those crisis calls will become less and less frequent.
That's the ultimate goal, isn't it? And it's a goal we can all contribute to in our own way, whether it's educating ourselves, challenging discriminatory language and behavior, or simply being a listening ear and a source of support for the LGBTQ plus people in our lives. Every action, no matter how small, can make a difference.
You're absolutely right. It's about creating a culture of acceptance and understanding where everyone feels valued and respected for who they are. But it's not just about celebrating differences, right? It's also about tackling those systemic issues that contribute to these disparities in the first place.
Absolutely. We need to address the root causes of discrimination and inequity. That could mean advocating for policy changes, pushing for more inclusive education, or challenging prejudice within our own communities. It's a multifaceted effort, and it requires commitment from all of us.
I completely agree. It's a long road. But I truly believe that we can create a more just and equitable world for LGBTQ plus youth. This deep dive has really opened my eyes to the depth of the challenges they face. But it's also filled me with hope. Seeing organizations like the Trevor Project working tirelessly to support and empower these young people is incredibly inspiring.
It is inspiring. And it's a reminder that even in the face of adversity, there is always hope, there is always support, and there is always the power of community.
And that's what makes this work so essential. It's about creating a network of support where no one has to face these challenges alone. It's about providing a safe space to be yourself. to be vulnerable, and to know that you are loved and accepted for who you are.
Beautifully said. And that sense of belonging, that feeling of being seen and valued, is ultimately what will help these young people not just survive, but thrive.
So where do we go from here? What's the next step in this journey?
I think it's about continuing the conversation. It's about staying informed, staying engaged, and staying committed to creating a world where all LGBTQ plus youth can flourish.
I love that. It's not about a single action or a grand gesture.
Yeah.
It's about sustained effort, consistent allyship, and the unwavering belief that every young person deserves to live a life filled with joy, acceptance, and the freedom to be their authentic selves.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And that brings us back to you, our listener.
We've covered a lot of heavy stuff today. This deep dive has really, I don't know about you, but I'm feeling a little overwhelmed by all this.
It is a lot to process. And, you know, it's important to acknowledge that these are complex issues with no easy solutions. But I think that's why it's so crucial to have these conversations.
Yeah, I completely agree. Knowledge is power. And understanding the challenges faced by BIPO's LGBTQ plus youth is that first step towards creating meaningful change.
Absolutely. And it brings us back to you, our listener.
Right back to you. You know, thinking back to what we talked about earlier, that feeling of isolation so many young people experience, that lack of access to mental health resources, and those added layers of discrimination based on both race and sexual orientation. You start to see this isn't just a personal struggle.
Right.
It's a societal issue that demands our attention and action.
Exactly. So what can WE do?
Yeah, that's the big question. How can we, as individuals, play a part in creating a more inclusive and supportive world for BIPOC LGBTQ plus youth?
There are so many ways to make a difference, and it can feel overwhelming.
Yeah, it really can. But remember, even small actions can have a huge ripple effect.
That's true. So start by checking out the resources the Trevor Project provides.
Yeah, familiarize yourself with their work, share their message with others, and consider donating if you're able to support their vital mission.
Absolutely.
Educate yourself on these issues. Challenge discriminatory language and behavior when you see it. And be a visible ally to LGBTQ plus people in your life.
You know, allyship can take so many forms. It can be as simple as listening with empathy, using inclusive language, or speaking out against injustice when you encounter it. It's about showing up for the LGBTQ plus community, not just during Pride Month or in times of crisis, but consistently and authentically.
I think that's so important. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to be a perfect ally.
Right. What matters most is the willingness to learn, to grow, and to stand in solidarity with those who are marginalized and facing these unique challenges.
This raises an important question for all of us. How can we create a world where all LGBTQ plus youth, regardless of their race, their ethnicity, their gender identity, or their sexual orientation, feel safe, supported, and empowered to live their lives to the fullest?
That's a question I hope you'll continue to think about long after this deep dive is over.
It's a question that deserves our ongoing attention, our empathy, and our action, because ultimately, it's about creating a world where every young person has the opportunity to thrive. That's the future we're striving for, and we hope you'll join us on that journey. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.